It's Mrs. Dammel. I'm here to do a quick mini lesson on comprehension strategy called compare and contrast. So you probably remember when you compare things, you're looking at how they're the same. So to compare is looking at how things are alike. Now, when we're looking at how things are in contrast, we're looking at how things are different. So to contrast is to look at how things are different from one another. Compare, how they're the same. Contrast, looking at the differences. Okay, so let's practice that. So today we're going to be looking at a story titled Holiday or Vacation. So when we're looking at examining how things are the same or how things are different to compare and contrast, we always have to look for signal words, words that show comparison. So as we've learned in our foundations lessons, endings such as ER and EST compare. Thank you. This is my daughter Rowan.
Hi.
She's off school too. We're all in this together. Okay, thank you, honey. So let's take a look at some of those comparative words using suffixes like ER and EST. So words like bigger, identify your suffix ER. That means it's comparing two things. Now, if I'm talking about the biggest, the suffix EST compares two or more things. So bigger compares fewer things than biggest. Remember, those are signal words. Some other examples of signal words include but, also, to, which also means also, and because. Oh, excuse me, not because, however. Sorry.
Oopsie daisy.
So these are our signal words. Words ending in ER, EST, words like but, also, to, with too many O's, and however. So now before we read the text, and the text we're going to be looking at today is titled Holiday or Vacation. The most important thing to do before you start reading is do a quick scan of the organization of information. You look for things like dialogue. Dialogue indicated by quotation marks, meaning somebody is speaking. Let's take a look at the text now. So the title of our story is Holiday or Vacation. We're scanning the text right now to look at the organization of the text. Right now I'm specifically looking for quotation marks. Significant amount of quotation marks indicates a narrative. So I believe that's what kind of text. The next thing you do is you read the focus question, which can always be found at the top of the page under the title. The focus question today that the author would like us to look at is how do these two parks compare? Or how are they the same? We're also going to look at that contrastly. How are they different? Looking for those signal words such as but, also, to, with too many O's, and however. Let's read the text together. Thomas and his Australian cousin Sarah were driving through Yellowstone National Park. Guess what? Thomas boasted. Yellowstone is the oldest national park in the United States and the world. It was founded in 1872. Well, Royal Park near Sydney is the second oldest, Sarah responded. It was founded in 1879, so Yellowstone is only a few years older. I bet Yellowstone is bigger than your park too, said Thomas. It covers 3,468 square miles. You win again, laughed Sarah. Royal Park covers 151 square kilometers, and kilometers are shorter than miles. Thomas and Sarah stopped at the entrance to a hiking trail where they saw a park ranger. Is this a good trail for spotting wildlife? Thomas asked. Sure, the ranger replied. Plenty of elk, bison, moose, beavers, wolves, and bears live in Yellowstone, he said. Remember, they may look cute, but some of them can be very dangerous. Always keep your distance and don't try to feed them. It is also very important that you don't pick any flowers in this park. The two cousins started off on the trail. You can't pick any flowers at Royal Park either, and you can't feed the animals, but not because they're dangerous, Sarah said. Human food can make the wallabies, platypuses, koalas, and wombats really sick. You won't find those animals at Yellowstone. I've never seen a live wallaby, said Thomas, and I've never even heard of a wombat. What is that? You'll have to find out when we go to Royal Park in Australia next holidays, Sarah replied. You mean next vacation? Said Thomas. I can't wait. Now we're going to return back to that focus question. How do these two parks compare? In the sentence, Yellowstone is the oldest national park in the United States and the world. It was founded in 1872. Oldest compares Yellowstone National Park to every other park. So it compares more than usually three things with that suffix est. So the reader can tell that Yellowstone is larger than Royal Park near Sydney, even though Royal Park in Sydney is the second oldest. Then we see Yellowstone is only a few years older. Regardless, it's older. That's the big idea that we focus on. Next, they talk about the size of the two parks. It says Yellowstone is bigger than your park too, said Thomas. It covers 3,468 square miles. That tells us about the area, the space within the park, whereas Royal Park covers 151 square kilometers, and kilometers are shorter than miles. The author made a point to be consistent with the measurement system they use in Australia to compare the two, but then gave us extra information about the total distance. Now, when we look at the second part of the passage, there are many embedded references of comparison and contrasting ideas. They talk about the different types of animals that live there. They talk about the different types of plants. But the rule remains the same at both of the parks. You can't feed them, can't feed the animals human food, and you can't pick any flowers at the park because the park should be untouched and in a natural state of being. So that's consistent across both Yellowstone and Royal Park. But really, another comparison within this text is the types of animals at the two parks. Sarah mentioned that wallabies, platypuses, koalas, and wombats live in Australia. However, they don't live in Yellowstone. Tomas has never even seen such animals. He says it in the text. The final comparison that the text makes regards vocabulary. In Australia, they refer to vacation as holiday. In America, we distinguish the two. Holidays are national holidays of celebration, times of coming together, whereas vacation is time to get away. I hope that gives you an idea of how compare and contrast is represented in narrative text.